Hi, katzcradul here. I was just sitting here thinking about the Homestead Honey Hour show, which will air tonight on Thursday night. It airs every Thursday night at prepperbroadcasting.com. And as I was thinking about that show, I remembered that Noreen mentioned to me that something came up in the chat last week about my thermal cooker, and people were asking questions about it. And I made a video of it a while back. In fact, when I made a video of it and couldn't remember why I didn't upload it. And I went back and watched the video, and now I remember why, because when I was filling my thermal cooker with the Styrofoam beads, I remember now that we had the fan on, and as I poured those beads in, the beads went everywhere, and we started cracking up, and it just got silly, and so I never uploaded it. But I'm going to show it to you today. And the reason I decided to try to figure out how to make a thermal cooker is because I know that the alternative cooking methods I have planned in case my electric stove doesn't work someday, or your natural gas stove doesn't work someday, I have stored up propane fuel and butane and kerosene, and I have ways to cook with all of those fuels, but I have a finite supply of those. If there was a long-term scenario where I had to count on them, they would eventually run out. And so I want to conserve those fuels to the best of my ability, and I thought a thermal cooker would be the way to do that. I saw some thermal cookers for sale. They go by various names. You can find them on the internet. They were expensive, and I figured I could do it myself. I just had to figure out how. And I saw someone who offered a pattern. Well, actually, it was for free on the internet. You could go and look at the pattern. It was very small, and I had to blow it up, and I did so with a lot of effort. I haven't had geometry in a long time, but you have to get the angles and the corners just right on this thing. I drew one whole pattern up and looked at it and laid the pieces against each other and decided that I didn't have it right, it wouldn't work, so I scrapped that and went back again. And it took me several hours to get it just right, so it is a little bit labor intensive because the pattern you see online is small and you have to blow it up. And when I'm telling you the angles have to be right and the dimensions have to be right, I'm not kidding. So let me show you a little bit about how it looks. Here it is. Here's the bottom. Well, here's the bottom. Let me show you the bottom of the bottom. The bottom of the bottom looks like this. There's only 4 seams, and you can see they have to come together perfectly there at the bottom. So this is how it looks. It's basically a big, let me back up a little bit. It's basically a big square at the bottom. So now I'm going to turn it over. Now when I looked at the pattern, I thought, how in the world does that work? Because the pattern just looked crazy. And if I pull up the top of the bottom, if that makes sense, it's kind of this pointed thing. It's kind of crazy. But it's so that that top will go down and sink in there and make a recessed area. Let me show you what the pattern piece looks like for that. Let me get the bottom piece here. Okay, here it is. I'm going to back up, see if I can get it for you. See, here's the piece. It's pointed at the bottom. Now this is the bottom where these 4 points come together, and then it comes up like this, kind of looks like a little rocket, and it's up here. Now, from here, across here, that's that pointed portion you saw me just stuff down in the center of that box, okay? Here's the pointed piece that just gets stuffed down. And I'm telling you, as I'm sewing it, I'm thinking, this can't be right, this can't be right, this is too weird. But you just got to go. You just got to go with the flow. You just got to sew it together, and it really does work. So there's the recessed section there. Okay, here's the top. And the top looks much like the bottom. See how it comes together? And it looks exactly the same way on the other side. So it's just basically a square. And there's kind of how they sit on top of each other. I'll pull this corner out and stuff the beads down there. That's basically how it looks. And let me show you the top pattern piece. Here's the top pattern piece. Prepper A was here, she could tell you what shape that is. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's got 6 sides. There you go, turn it over. And I just labeled it Wonderbox Cooker, top, and I know to cut 4 of those. That's the top. Real straightforward. Now here's how it works. If I want to cook a pot of beans or a pot of rice or a small roast or whatever, I cook it in this pot. You need a pot that has handles on the sides like this, not a long handle. That doesn't work so well. I think I found this one at Walmart. It's a stacker thing. There's a bottom to it, and there's a little steamer that sits on the inside, and I've used it. I bought it specifically for this, but I've used it 100 times for other things other than cooking, than thermal cooking, because it's a great little pot. It's got a see-through glass lid, and the most important thing is it has a nice, thick, heavy bottom. Now, when I first made this thermal cooker, I used a pot that had a thinner bottom. It doesn't work well because you want this thick bottom to hold heat. Okay? So here's the lid, and this is about the size pot you need. Now, learn from my mistakes, or maybe it's not a mistake, I don't know. As I was deciding what to make this thermal cooker out of, I was trying to think of what is the hottest thing I wear. What is the hottest piece of clothing I wear? Well, corduroy is really hot. Wool is really hot. I didn't really want to pay for wool to make this thing, especially when I was just experimenting with it. And so the next hottest thing I could think of was fleece, because I can't stand to wear it because I just burn up in it. So I thought, okay, I'll make it out of fleece, and I'll make it in a dark color so if I spill anything on it, it won't show. And so that's what I did. I went out and got fleece. Well, it wasn't until I went to go put a boiling pot in here that I thought, well, darn, that is a man-made fiber, and it will melt if it comes in contact with something very hot. I should never have made it out of a man-made fiber, but I figured out a way around it so I didn't have to scrap it. And what I do is I just line the bottom of my thermal cooker, and any of you who've ever fallen asleep with a newspaper on your lap, that your legs get on fire after a minute because it retains so much heat. So I just put newspaper in the center of mine like that, and then when my pot's ready to go in, I nestle it in there like that, so none of the edges of the pot, or if I spill food on the pot, it doesn't get on my cooker. And then here I come with the lid, bam, just like that. And I snuggle that lid right down on that pot, and that's how it looks. I make sure that it's really tucked in good like that. You could even layer a layer of newspaper on top of your pot, and then put this on. Now, what do you have to do to cook in it? What you have to do is cook your food for about 15 minutes in your pot until it gets to boiling. It has to be boiling. And then you come and set your pot in your thermal cooker, layer a piece of newspaper on it if you want to, and then put the top on and walk away. And if we're talking about rice, I just get rice to boiling and then put it in here, and then in about an hour, I always try to do it like an hour before supper, then I just come get my pot out and my rice is done. Rice is a no-brainer. That's a good way to start. But if we're talking about dry beans or roast or anything that has to cook longer than that, get it up to boiling, put it in your thermal cooker, put the lid on, and walk away for 4 or 5 hours and come back and your food will generally be ready. Now you have to experiment to know the times for the different things you do. If you're doing say like a goulash with a macaroni, it's not going to take that long because that will cook in, an hour and a half or so. If you're doing a roast, you're going to leave it 4 or 5 or 6 hours. Put it on in the morning, put it in here, and walk away from it. In the winter, I use this inside. I'll leave it inside. You can set it right. I can set it right on my table like this. In the summer, I put it outside because it's hot, and the ambient temperature will contribute to keeping all this hot. So I don't cook with it in the air-conditioned house. Let's see, what else can I tell you? Here are the beads. Once I made it, you leave a portion of it open in the top and the bottom so you can stuff it. I ordered these. I believe I ordered these on eBay. They're pellets very similar. These are a little bigger than the ones that are in a beanbag chair. And perhaps the smaller ones would work even better holding the heat in, but I've had no trouble with these. I ordered a box of them. The box when it comes is huge. It cost me about, I think I paid $19.99 for these beads, and this is all that was left with this little Ziploc bag. So it takes most of them, and I'll try to find the link for that. I hope that seller's still available on eBay, but I know you can buy these beads because it's just the ones like you refill for a beanbag chair. Now, what I'm going to tell you I would do differently, because I'm going to make, Noreen, I promise I'm going to make you one. I promised her when I made me one that I'd make her one. I've already bought the material to do it, just haven't. When I make hers, what I'm going to do is in one of the seams in the top and in one of the seams in the bottom, where I leave it open to stuff, I'm going to put Velcro there so that if I ever need to wash this, I can just open up the Velcro, dump the beads into a garbage bag, wash it, refill it, and just close the Velcro opening. That way I know I can keep this clean. This is certainly not my idea. I saw a video one time where women in Africa that are on the plains that have been stripped of all trees and wood, where they don't have fuel to cook and have to conserve every little bit of fuel they have, they use these to cook in. So they heat up their food and then put it in these thermal cookers to cook all day, and then they've only used the 15 or 20 minutes of fuel as opposed to the 3 hours of fuel if they're cooking, you know, a big pot of soup or, you know, something like a roast or something, anything big. So these are being used with great success there. I don't know why we can't use them here. My electric bill is high during the summer, and I certainly don't want to be cooking in the house during the summer, so it's a great solution for me. And I'm for anything that is a cost savings that allows me to spend my money on things that I'd rather spend it on. I hope you'll give this a try. I will go find the link for you of where I got the pattern. I'm seriously thinking about letting Prepare start a little business where now you do have to have a big sheet of paper to be able to cut this, especially the top part because it's really big. So we bought this. I think you can find it in the section where you buy the packages, the padded packages for mailers, that kind of thing at Walmart or Target or whatever your discount store is. Just get a roll of this brown paper and it'll allow you to cut it. Be sure and buy a roll of it because you'll probably have to cut 2 of them. Anyway, I was thinking it'd be a great little business for Prepare. For $5, she could, you know, cut those out and address envelopes and mail them to people. I haven't decided whether to do that or not. It depends on how many people say, yeah, I'd love to have one of those patterns. And I also would try to write up instructions that'd be a little more clear than the ones I read. But you can find the patterns online. It's a little bit of a challenge to get them laid out in full size. But it's worth it. It cost me whatever the price of the material was. I might have paid $5 for this material. I bought it on sale. Joann's runs, if you sign up on their mailing list, they run a coupon every month for 40% off any one item, and I always save it for something like this. So I probably waited and used a 40% off coupon on this. So maybe $5 for this, and I think it takes 3 yards of material, and maybe $6 or $7 I spent on this, and then $20 for the box of Styrofoam beads. So we're talking about a $25 investment. I'm not counting the pot because I use that for so many other things. So for $25, I mean, it'll pay for itself in just probably a month or 2 of cooking and using it. So I don't use it for everything. I use it for those things that I'm not in a hurry to cook, that really need time to absorb water. It's perfect for that. So anyway, let me know what you think. It's an exciting new concept. And I'm going to show you something else exciting like this they're using in third world countries in just a few weeks. So if you have any questions, just leave it in the comment section. I'll try to answer it for you. Or come tonight to the Homestead Honey Hour, and you can ask your question there. I'll be happy to answer it. Cat's Cradle.